Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Welcome, everybody, to Dulono's Pizza. Russo just walked up to me and said, let's bleeping do it. So I think we know what kind of show it's going to be today. And if you're at the game yesterday, as we both were, you know what kind of show it's going to be today. Michael?
What?
First thought. Just give me your first thought off the top of your head.
Well, Blue Cross Blue Shield sent me this bill in the mail that we're going to...
I didn't know they charged hypochondriacs.
Yeah, I'm going to send a little bucket around for everybody to contribute to the pulled calf that I was diagnosed with in Vegas a couple weeks ago that I ranted about.
Yeah, how's that holding up?
Yeah, well,
How many surgeries have you gone through?
The pulled calf is fine, but I got a headache from the bill. Do you know how much these hospitals charge insurance companies?
$1 million.
This is the problem with the freaking medical field.
They charge $1 million
crazy.
for everything.
It's unbelievable. So that is going to be the most expensive ibuprofen that I've ever bought in my life.
How much was it?
Well, my portion is a good amount.
Give me the amount.
Almost 6 figures. Almost 4. Well, depends if you put the two down.
Michael's calling it 6 figures if you count the the place to the right of the decimal point.
Well, I mean, it's almost $1,000 it's going to come out of pocket for freaking
almost
$1,000
is 6 figures.
Yeah. You know, I told Dan Myers this morning, and Dan's like, you know what? Next time, take a freaking ibuprofen and take a nap instead of going to the hospital.
You know what? Dan Myers should charge you $50 to be your doctor.
Yeah.
You both end up much better off financially.
And the worst thing is I made like the worst I was like lying on a gurney in the hospital and made like a fantasy hockey trade with LaPanza. It's like the worst trade I've ever made. And I've made some pretty crappy trades. So
we've been doing the show for a few years now. How many of your stories, well, I was going to say, how many of your stories end up with you on a gurney in a hospital? But the question really is, how many of your stories don't end up with you on a gurney in a hospital? Are there any?
No, usually they involve a gurney.
This is the Russo-Souhan Show. This is part of TalkNorth.com. We are live at Dulono's Pizza, downtown Minneapolis, right by Ramp C. If you've heard us talk about it before, easy to get to, great pizza, great menu. A lot of the regulars here pretty much tried everything on the menu at this point, and they have no complaints. 612-767-9494 to order direct. Go to Dulono'sPizza.com to order on the website. Check out the website for everything else, including some of the raves about them and how they've been doing this for 60 years. Proprietary tomato sauce. Thanks to our other sponsors, Twill in the United Galleria, Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin, Fixologyrepair.com, downtown Minneapolis, and at the Mall of America. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. Please download before you listen, and follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. All right, we were there yesterday. It was ugly. Afterward, Parisi, Foligno both said we're not giving enough effort. Especially Parisi looked especially down about it. Is it that simple, or is effort kind of a cover-all for all the problems that are plaguing the team and the franchise right now?
What was your question?
Sorry,
there's about to be some wild news. Huge breaking wild news in about 5 seconds.
Here, I'll do the Minnesota TV question. Yeah. Talk about hockey.
Huh?
Talk about hockey.
Talk about hockey. What honestly was your question?
Seriously, my question was: we're in the locker room yesterday after the game. They get stomped. Another loss. At least this one was to a good team. And Parisi talked about effort, and it's always a go-to in hockey. People always talk about effort. But is it just effort, or is effort the
Well, last game was definitely
overarching?
effort.
Okay.
I mean, the 2 games ago, and last game it was an effort because their soul has been ripped out of their body after those 2 previous games. I mean, you can't say effort was the issue the games before. And this is the problem sometimes when you get bad goaltending. I mean, all of a sudden now everything else is fractured. And you saw it yesterday. There was no structure to the Wild's game. They played like, it was... Last game, I think I've said this 1,000 times in the last month, which tells you the state of this team. But last game was now the new disappointment, most disappointed I've ever been watching him. And last game was just, I can't even believe that people are paying that. Luckily for some of the...
See Vicky's expression when he said that?
I can't believe people come to this podcast. I can't people listen.
But here they get in the door for free and they get to eat pizza. This is a much better deal.
Let me just get the tweet prepped. There's no big news, but they're about to call somebody up. So anyway, the thing with this team is that they just have put themselves in this position where they just, as one player said to me today, he goes, I have a feeling it's about to get ugly. And I go, about? I mean, you've won once in 9 games, about to get ugly. Like, I don't know. It's just, they're in a situation right now where really what the big unknown here, and I do think that these guys are scared of it, is they don't know what's going to happen. I mean, one player basically said to me today, and trust me, I refuse to take the brunt of the blame on this, but he basically said, he was your story the other day on that he's has freedom to do everything you want, even if it means we're not to playoffs, make the playoffs. He's like, that is in everybody's head, like it's and I'm not again that's on them to be professionals.
Yep.
And they've put themselves in a position where Paul Fenton's been given this green light to trade anybody and everybody. If they had been 5-0 this month, you think that would be? So again, that to me is on them. It's an easy excuse. I mean, Foligno said it after the game last night that all these guys, that there's a lot of guys in the room that are sort of waiting for the deadline. Well, again, get over it. Do you think the deadline was magically today, that all of a sudden tomorrow they're going to go on a 6-7-0? This team is not good right now. And so they've got to figure it out, because there could be some painful moves here in the next week or so. I think that last night Paul was willing to trade anybody and everybody off this roster. I still think that the most logical guys to probably go here, if they're going to trade core guys, are the Zuckers and the Coyles. But there are 2 things that I think Paul better be weary of, and one is Granlund, because Granlund still is the guy that makes everybody else on this team have an ability to score. And
you're just saying that because Mary's
and
here.
if you have a chance to get a Kaprizov here in the next couple of years, I think you'd want Granlund being on this team. And the other thing is it concerns me right now that he would trade Brodin. I think that he would in a heartbeat, and I think that Paul needs to remember that when this top 4D are healthy, they make this team go. It's those 4 defensemen that make this team go, because up front, I'm sorry, there's nothing special. So he's got to be scared of that. He's got to remember what this team did look like earlier in the season when Dumba was healthy, and Spurgeon and Brodin were a great shutdown pair, and Suter was with Dumba, and try to remember that and not overreact to something when you know that you're going to get Dumba back at some point next year. So that's the other thing. And again, this blue line looks this way right now because he decided they can't kill a penalty right now because he decided to add guys like Boteto and take Nate Prosser off the team and move Brodin to the right side. So this is a lot of, mismanagement and a flawed team to begin with.
What was Modano doing here?
Good question. I mean, they're having fun with me now. I mean, today, I'm glad I wrote the story yesterday because then I show up at practice today, and then Modano's up in the booth with Leopold, so then we all would have had it. No offense. And then, I'm looking at them up there, and they're kind of like both looking at me laughing, Craig and Modano. So finally, I just
get that a lot, though.
I just finally sent Craig a text message that just said, I'll read it to you. It was kind of mean toward his hockey team. I just said free agent signings are allowed before trade deadline. Modano would be your best center right now, just saying. And then, So he read it out loud to Madonna, and they were both on the floor laughing. So, and I don't think I'm far off from that assessment. I know it's a slight exaggeration, but anyway. What's he doing here? I think that they're going to hire him at some point, whether it's now or then. I don't think it's going to be as a president of hockey ops. I think it's going to be a multifaceted role. He wants to get back into hockey. He is 100% willing to move here from Arizona, which is just absurd. Sorry. Have you seen Scottsdale? It's not exactly...
But people like Madonna can go back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. So he did say to me at some point in the last couple of weeks, he goes, sometimes it gets a little old golfing every day. I'm like, well, then welcome to Minnesota. So anyway, yeah, it's just, it's one of those things where I just think that they want to have him in here to help out, be a sounding board in the hockey ops, maybe take more of a role. I think he would love to be the president of hockey ops. I just don't. The one thing I will say is I don't know if just being a great hockey player gives him the qualifications to run a hockey operations department. But it'd be nice to have somebody like that in the organization. So we'll see what happens. I think that it would probably be a multi kind of like faceted mixed, as I wrote today, mixed bag of roles, but we'll see. Again, I don't know if it's imminent or if it's going to happen after the season. It's certainly looking like it's becoming that imminent point right now because, he's here. They're not hiding that he's here now. They were hiding that he was here until I wrote it, and then they're like, well, we might as well just show him. So, he's just he's just sitting in the booth today. So I walk in the locker room, and every player's like, what the F was Madonna doing? I'm like, don't you read? So I tweeted it.
I have a follow-up question on Madonna.
Yeah.
I do want to thank Twill and the Edina Galleria, TWILLMN.com, or Twill on Instagram. I bought Johnny O, Barber, Peter Millar, Brax, and Scott Dayton's always going out, not only around the country, but around the world looking for new, cool brands. Check out Twill in the Edina Galleria. Again, it's in the Edina Galleria. It's pretty easy to find.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
So I have two different kind of contradictory opinions on Madonna, or windows on Madonna. One was as a player, both here and in Dallas, he was like the ultimate ambassador for hockey. He was always available. He was a great quote. He would talk about anything. He was engaging. But then he also had the Olympic thing where he kind of threw a fit. Give me your view of Madonna overall as a guy.
I've every time I've covered him, it's been from afar or via text message or when the Wild, if you remember, it's kind of interesting. His last year of what we all thought was his NHL career, he comes here at the end of the season. They throw a North Stars jersey on him. He does the whole lap because it was over. And then all of a sudden that offseason, he was kind of tweeting like, sign me, Chuck Fletcher, sign me. And so all of a sudden he was playing with the heartstrings of Minnesotans everywhere. And Chuck was under pressure to sign him and actually went and tried to sign him. And then next thing you know, he signed in Detroit. So that was my close-up, covering him, but the rest were just from afar in scrums, covering Stanley Cup final, things like that. Obviously one of the great players to ever play the game. He only lasted in 2 years as sort of like the ambassador there. I don't know what happened, but I do hear there was at a point a falling out, and then obviously that's changed here in the last 4 years where they've honored him a couple times and things like that. Again, I don't know what his role potentially would be here. I do think that it's going to be one of those things where it's going to sort of evolve as time goes on. But clearly, it's happening. It's just a matter of when.
I also remember covering the 91 Stars-Penguins finals and going out for a beer after one of the games and looking over, and there's Modano, who looked like he was 12, sitting there with his parents hanging out after a game. He's
I mean, you always got to be careful with these type of things. Like, to me, you can't just step in and run a hockey operations department. Like, it took, here's a good example. What the Wild have to be wary of is, remember when Brett Hull went to Dallas to become their GM? Next thing you know, he signs freaking Sean Avery to a 4-year